So now, when you do come against that, where your gut is telling you something and the greater good or whoever it is saying, I don't think so, you just proceed anyway? Does that intuition whisper to you? Is it loud and clear?
I'm pretty clear usually, but that comes from experience. That's just time, you know, doing it again and again and again and again. And it's a case-by-case situation, you know. There's a lot of very sensible advice out there saying, for example, not to launch production on Quantum Theory, my current project, to begin with, because female-driven science fiction is not how it's done. I mean, you know that. Being a woman in the industry, you've, I'm sure, heard a million reasons why you can't headline a movie with a woman. I've got two. We have gay characters in this movie that are not being pointed out as gay. They're not gay in a demonstrative way. You know what I mean? They're not gay. Ultimately, the point is that it is not, what's the word? Propaganda. Either pro or con. You know what I'm saying? And even in very friendly shows today, you put a character that is in any way a minority, and the tendency is to choose a propagandistic angle for that character and make a statement. And these are just people. You know, and that's something I think that goes against the grain of what people think an audience is willing to accept. And I take that information into account. I'm not seeking studio financing for this movie because I don't think it would hold up under the studio system. But we are communicating with the audience, and they do like it. And we are building the tools to put this movie in theaters. It's all about the right tool for the right job. If you want to work with the studio, give them what they want. Because they're your audience. If you're selling screenplays to Paramount, Paramount's your audience. Write what Paramount likes. You know, be honest with yourself about what your goals are. My goal right now is to please the audience that we started building with the Starmind record, and to please ourselves, and to build on the onset relationships that we built on the Starmind record and turn it into something more and turn it into something good. It comes with a different set of business criteria. So ultimately, for that goal, Quantum Theory is the perfect tool. I have a million other screenplays that I can recommend for somebody who finds it unlikely to succeed. It will succeed. We've got the tools. It's happening right now, you know. And you know, in terms of financing, it's just a question of finding the person who is prepared to succeed on the terms that we are prepared to succeed on.
It almost makes me think of the character in Brave, how they felt that she wasn't princess-like enough. She didn't want to be a girly girl, and she was too fiercely independent.
Yeah.
And so they labeled her as maybe she was gay, but they didn't say it. And so it seemed like she had to fit into a box of some sort. Do you think that's what you're going back talking about in terms of like identifiable characters? Like, okay, this is the one person here, this is this person.
You know, good question. Well, I think there's two different ways to look at it, at the problem. There's a very utilitarian perspective, and there's a very, these are the rules, and the rules are there for a reason perspective, which they are. At the end of the day, if you're doing business with a major studio, you're doing business largely with people who did not come from the entertainment industry and who do not view this as a performance enterprise. They view it as a product enterprise first and foremost. And they've learned the rules of manufacturing products. And ultimately, they create these different categories to put products in because you have to have an inventory. Like, that's how they think. And there's nothing wrong with that. The studios are doing very well. And they're getting very smart about how they manage it too. They're smarter now than they were before. Buying Marvel was a great move for Disney. Buying Pixar was a great move for Disney. They've been brilliant about how they have managed, how they identify and target products, because they are buying people who have been in the throes of that industry for a long time and who understand how the audience sees it maybe a little more comprehensively. You know, and you're seeing the same thing in other companies. You've got companies like Universal buying up Focus Features. Smart move, Universal, you know, and that's what happens when a publicly traded corporation reaches a certain size. They have to stop making products and start buying companies because making products is too risky to reach the investors that haven't already bought their stock. It's all about supply and demand. You got to find more people to buy the stock. After 10 million people have bought your stock, you got to think a little outside the box about how you're going to get the next 10. You got to change something. You know what I mean? So if you're talking to those people and you're trying to please those people, which is fine, I will gladly have that conversation. If anybody from Universal's watching and you're like, wow, this kid's pretty smart, can I buy a screenplay from him? The answer is yes, you may. Please call. You know, and I'll do whatever you need me to do, and I will make it excellent. I will play by your rules, and I will play by your rules exquisitely. I will be your David Beckham. You know, but those rules are there because the system needs them to be, not because the audience needs them to be. And preserving the system is how those guys get paid. So it's very important that they continue to do it. And so I don't want to talk about how that works in a way that minimizes its importance, because to some people it's hugely important, and it's not BS. It's not, you know, it's a little, I think, naive for a young upcoming filmmaker to be like, screw it. Well, yes, cool, and you could make $100,000 in 2 months if you play your cards right, and that will help you. You know, so there's that. But on the flip side of it, you know, my experience in the performing arts has always been in theater, and you can't ignore the audience when you're on stage. I'm not, at the end of the day, built for pleasing the system. I'm built for pleasing the people and communicating with them as an ensemble has been ultimately the business practice that has driven repertory theater since before the days of Shakespeare. It's tried and true. It's a trend. It is a market trend. And it's a far more long-standing market trend than comic book movies make money. By a factor of tens. You know, we're talking about hundreds and thousands of years here. Homer built his freaking success on the basis of that simple practice, and people are still reading his stuff today. So for me, it really just boils down to, what are the specific goals of your production? What are you trying to achieve? What are the tools? A screenplay is a tool, a cast is a tool, you know, production teams are tools. What tools are going to most effectively realize the goal that you have set in front of yourself? You know, and for me, 8-sided films, as a whole, all of us, are a tool to please the audience that likes the same things that we do. That's it. So every decision that goes into that is going to be focused. I mean, the smell test is, does it do that? Does it help us get fun projects that they're going to like, or challenging projects that, whatever? Is it going to help us get a film out there that they're going to love? Yes or no? You know, and working by the studio's rules right now, in this case, will not help us achieve that. It's just not, it's not what we're doing right now, you know? But if somebody comes at me with a great plan and I can make some money doing that, then I'll turn on a dime. I'll sell right out. But I won't sell out 8-sided films, because that's not what it's for.